Hey, what's up guys? Happy New Year. This is Matt coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. So in this video, I'm going to be counting down my top 10 favorite rides I've done in the last, 10, 15 years. Now, I definitely don't claim to be a world traveler. There's more rides out there that I haven't done than I have done. And so this is just a top 10 of the rides that I personally have done. I will say I have done some pretty dang good ones, and I do live in a part of the country that has a lot of good rides out here, Western United States. That being said, there's still a lot of rides out there that I would love to do, a lot of them in the US, and hopefully one day I can start to really travel internationally and do a lot of the rides outside of the US as well. So I'm going to be starting off with number 10, and I'm going to be counting down all the way up to my favorite all-time ride. So without further ado, let's start it off at my number 10 favorite ride I've done. And coming in at number 10, I'm going to have to give it to Highway 89A into Sedona. So Sedona, Arizona in and of itself is just a beautiful area. It's characterized by one of my favorite landscapes, and that is like the desert red rock landscape with a lot of the plateaus. There aren't too many places in the world other than the southwestern area of the United States that has these red rock formations. So it's just kind of a cool, unique landscape that you're not going to get too many places in the world. I've never done this ride south to north, but I have done it north to south, starting off in Flagstaff, Arizona and riding down into Sedona. Once again on the 89A, you've got a lot of pine trees and everything up in the higher elevation of Flagstaff, and then you drop down this amazing windy road, the 89A, and then when you get down to the bottom of that road, as you start to get into Sedona, it totally changes the landscape. You start to get more of the red rock formations like I mentioned, and Sedona is kind of a tourist destination, a lot of mountain bikers, a lot of hiking and things like that in this area. It's just a beautiful area, but this 89A basically combines amazing views with an awesome windy road, and so Highway 89A into Sedona is going to be my number 10 top ride that I've done. Coming in at number 9, I'm going to have to give it to the Angeles Crest Highway. This is easily one of the top 3 best roads in Southern California. And for that reason, it's kind of a road that's near and dear to me because I've ridden it many times. This is basically the road that I grew up on, more specifically Glendora Mountain Road. I've included Azusa Canyon in this Angeles Crest with Glendora Mountain Road because they're kind of all in that Angeles National Forest area. But Highway 2, the Angeles Crest, this is the biggie. This road is amazing, and I think sometimes it gets overlooked because so many of us Southern Californians live so close to it and we take it for granted. But this is a high speed, very windy, amazing views highway. Pretty much all the motorsports locals that live in Southern California hit up this road. The mouth of it, or the entry point, isn't too far from downtown Los Angeles. It's just north, located in La Cañada, and this road is pretty long as well. You have nice winding sweepers all the way through, forestry areas combined with amazing canyon views. Down there you have some vistas of downtown LA in some areas of this road, and it takes you all the way up into Wrightwood and all the way to the 15 freeway. Wrightwood is where there's like some local small ski resorts as well, so you definitely gain in some pretty good elevation. And for being so close to one of the biggest cities in the country, as soon as you get up here you feel pretty remote and alone. This road does get busy on Sundays, the weekend, but if you hit it like on a non-weekends, there's very little traffic up here, and so it's just smooth sailing riding. If you want to hit Azusa Canyon or Glendora Mountain Road, you'll have to travel east on the 210 and access Highway 39 Azusa Canyon north of Azusa, and there is a fork where you can access Glendora Mountain Road and then go up to like Mount Baldy if you want to. But all 3 of these roads, especially Highway 2, are awesome. Coming in at number 8, I'm going to give it to the Hana Highway, or the Road to Hana as the locals call it. Hana Highway can be found on the island of Maui in Hawaii, and I mean, after all, it's in Hawaii, guys. You don't really have to say much more. Hawaii has just some of the most beautiful natural terrain and scenery. You combine amazing ocean views with incredible mountainous, lush jungle forestry. And the road to Hana is kind of adventurous as well, because when you get down there on the south side, it kind of becomes a little bit treacherous where you don't have pavement the whole way through. For that reason, I would say that your riding skills have to be pretty dang sharp, especially if you're going to be on on a full bagger, like a road glide like I was. But the road to Hana is just the epitome of island riding. Of course, this isn't very accessible to most people, as obviously you have to fly over there. And for some people in the world, it can be quite the travel to get over there. But I recently also did Oahu. We rode around that island and it was awesome. But 6 years ago, when I did the Hana Highway with my wife on the back, it was one of the most memorable motorcycle rides I've ever done, and one of the most beautiful as well. You typically will get some rain on this ride though, and sometimes it can be pretty bad. I lucked out though, we didn't have too much rain on this ride, and to have just a windy road through the lush jungle was amazing. And then you combine that with one of the most popular hikes, the 7 sacred pools on the island of Maui. It just makes it that much better. On this ride, I was on a rental. I was able to get a road glide. And so last time I checked, there are rentals available on this island. If you're a motorcycle guy and you ever take a vacation out to Maui, you might want to look into riding around the road to Hana. A lot of people will ride down to the 7 sacred pools and then backtrack back up. That way they don't have to ride on any dirt roads. But if you want to take it to the next level and go for an adventure, $1 Million Bogan style, then you do the entire loop. If you do the entire loop, you got to start early because there are a lot of slow speed sections, a lot of blind turns, and so the road is a little bit slow going. The road to Hana continues to show up on people's top 10 most scenic drives in the country lists, and it's easy to tell why. The views cannot be beat, and it's very hard to duplicate this type of scenery. Coming in at number 7 is a ride that I did just 2 months ago. Many of you probably caught this on the channel, but I headed out to eastern Tennessee and hit up the Smoky Mountains. Now, the Smoky Mountains is a big area, and so I'm trying to narrow this down to kind of specific roads and rides. And so I'd have to say the combination of the Tail of the Dragon and the Cherohala Skyway, which is a route that I was able to do in one day. This is just a very cool area to ride. This is an area where you can fly out there and do multiple days of riding and never do the same road twice. And there's just a lot of really good roads in the area, a lot of which that I didn't even do. So I actually got to go back there and do more stuff. But you have the Foothills Parkway, you have the Blue Ridge Parkway, which I was unable to do due to the hurricane. You have all the roads in and around the Smoky Mountains National Park, which is beautiful. I did it in the fall time when the leaves were changing, which is pretty awesome if you're able to time it right. But there's plenty of awesome territory if you cross over into western North Carolina as well. A lot of beautiful roads out there. You have a really strong moto culture out there. A lot of the restaurants and roads and things are named after motorcycles. You have the Wheels Through Time Museum, which I was unable to visit because once again the hurricane had it closed down, but I've heard really good things about it. You have some really cool dealerships out there as well. You've got what is probably one of the most popular motorcycle roads in the country with the Tail of the Dragon, but that's just one of many awesome roads. Like I mentioned, the Cherohala Skyway is awesome as well. A lot of the locals would argue that it's actually better than the Tail of the Dragon. I think they're both rad in their own way, but these are just two of many roads leading up to those two roads and after those two roads. I mean, this whole area of eastern Tennessee is just a web of awesome motorcycle roads. It's just a really cool motorcycle scene, and every road is curvy. It's easily one of the best areas in the country to be a motorcyclist, to own a motorcycle, or take a vacation out there to ride. Coming up at number 6 on my list of best motorcycle destinations in the country would have to be the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is basically the epitome of American Western motorcycle trips, and you can really have two different experiences depending on if you visit the South Rim or the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. My personal preference is going to be the North Rim. It's a little bit more difficult to access, but if you put in the time and the effort and the planning, in my opinion, just because of the remoteness of it and just the sheer beauty and motorcycle roads, I like it better than the South Rim. However, the South Rim is absolutely beautiful and awesome as well. I would say go to both of them, plan 2 different trips and visit both sides of the rim. The North Rim is cool. There's really only one place to stay, and that's at the North Rim Lodge there that was built a long time ago. So you have the historic benefit of the North Rim, but just getting there too, like we accessed it from the west, and so we went through southern Utah to get to it, and then we looped looped back around and went through like Page, Arizona. So the ride to and from is also really cool, which I think makes it nice as well. The ride to the South Rim, at least if you're coming from Southern California, will probably involve the 40, which is fine, but it's just a big open highway that has a lot of trucks and everything. But because you don't have a whole lot of options with lodging, you do need to book a room at that lodge 6, 7, 8 months in advance. It doesn't open up until June, and it closes, I want to say, in like October. So you have like a finite window to visit this as well, because it does snow pretty heavily in the winter and they do close it down. But once you take that road south of Jacobs Lake, the ride into the North Rim is really cool. And then once you get there, there's some really cool hikes in and around the South Rim as well. And then like I mentioned, you can very easily combine this ride with some really cool southern Utah, northern Arizona rides that has some really cool scenery as well. Those areas can get pretty hot, so I would say maybe try to avoid July and August, which are the hottest times of year up there. But the North Rim is one that I will definitely go back to. You have the spectacular views of what is probably one of the most iconic American landmarks in the country. It's remote enough and difficult to access enough where you weed out a lot of that tourism crowd, and there's something that just feels really good about riding a motorcycle to the Grand Canyon. So coming in at number 5 of what I feel like are the best motorcycle road trips that I've been on, I would give it to the Black Hills of South Dakota, which is basically Sturgis, but I'm not saying Sturgis because Sturgis refers to the motorcycle rally. And although I think the motorcycle rally is really cool, when I say the Black Hills, you can go anytime that the weather is nice. You don't have to necessarily go when the Sturgis motorcycle rally is going on. Although the rally is really cool too, but for just the sake of riding, I think the Black Hills is a really cool thing, which is kind of what I think is the secret sauce as to why the rally has been so successful for so long, is there's just some really cool roads there. So the 2 roads specifically that I'm referring to are the Iron Mountain Road and Needles Highway. Those roads are just the epitome of motorcycling. They have so much history in them. So many Harley-Davidsons have rolled over those roads for the last 84 years, whatever Sturgis rally we're on. And really that whole area is just special. You know, all the restaurants and everything is just all around the motorcycle culture. There's a lot of restaurants that aren't even open except for during the Sturgis rally. You got places like the Buffalo Chip, the Full Throttle Saloon, you got Mount Rushmore right there. It's just an awesome area to ride motorcycles. And if you're not into crowds and people watching, you might want to just take a ride out to the Black Hills without the whole Sturgis rally. You won't be disappointed. When me and the guys went out there in 2023, we had a great time. We went a little bit before the rally and we were able to enjoy some of these most popular roads without a ton of traffic. It was right before the rally, so we could catch a little bit of the rally the last couple days we were there, and it turned out being just kind of the perfect timing for everything. But the Black Hills are a super special place and definitely worth the trek out there. Coming in at number 4 on my best motorcycle rides list has got to be the Going to the Sun Road found in Glacier National Park. This road is absolutely spectacular. I don't know how long it took them to build this road, but it is a spectacle of engineering mastery. You're going over the Rocky Mountains, the northern section of it, right up there by the Canadian border. Glacier National Park is in Montana, the western side of it, and I don't think this national park gets enough attention because it is absolutely beautiful. I think it's probably because it's in a little bit more remote section of the country, so it doesn't get as many visitors, although it still can get very crowded, don't get me wrong. And so that would be my first tip. Actually, we were able to visit the Glacier National Park like the end of September. It was actually like nearing the end of when the national park is even open, so we caught it at the very tail end of the season, definitely not in the summer when all the crowds are there. I've heard this road gets to be like a conga line in the middle of the summer because everyone's out there doing this Going to the Sun Road, but we were able to hit it in an off-peak time, and because of that we were able to go up the road, and although we got slowed down a little bit in certain sections, we were able to travel at a pretty good speed without a whole lot of delays. But you've got some amazing lakes here, you've got some incredible hikes. We took out a boat on Lake McDonald, which was awesome. Just the grandeur of this place is spectacular, and I think these kind of views and roads are continued into the Canadian Rockies, which which is one of the roads that I have not been on, but is one of the ones that I definitely do want to do and I plan on visiting in the future. Places like Banff and Lake Louise up in Canada, that is definitely on my bucket list. But the Going to the Sun Road, although it isn't that high of speed, I mean, you're going to be doing 15, 20 miles an hour a lot of the time. The beauty of it is absolutely spectacular. Like I said, you've got sections like the Weeping Wall, where you've got like this small little waterfall that runs out over the road, a bunch of hidden lakes all over the place. Riding over the Going to the Sun Road is easily one of the best experiences I've ever had on a motorcycle. I gotta go back sometime. If you're thinking about going on just an epic road trip, I'd say this needs to be at the top of your list. So this next one, I'm going to cheat a little bit. It's in southern Utah. I think southern Utah has so many good spots, but these two national parks are fairly close together, and so I'm going to lump them both together. But my number 3 all-time best road trips I've taken has got to be Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon National Park. So when I did these with my crew a few years ago, we hit both of these parks in one day, and although you can spend multiple days in each of these parks individually, we rode through both of them in one day. But southern Utah is just one of those just special places where you have just some of the most unique terrain. I mean, I think these are probably two of the most Instagrammed places in the country, which yes, they are popular. Yes, a lot of people like them. So that makes it even more important to try to catch them in the off season. We were able to do them during COVID when absolutely nobody was there, so it was great. But hitting Zion in either the spring or the fall is usually the best. Summertimes it just gets crazy crowded. And although Bryce Canyon is less popular, it's still spectacular. The road going all the way down through the park is a lot of fun. The views are incredible. And really I put this at number 3 as well because all the roads through southern Utah are awesome. The Highway 12 that goes past Bryce Canyon also goes into Capitol Reef National Park as well. Then you can follow that into Hanksville, which is really cool as well. There's just so many cool stops along the way. And that road, the Highway 12, getting to these different destinations is spectacular as well. So once you get into that southern Utah region, there's really no trash riding where you're just trying to burn through it to get to your destination. You just want to make sure you don't do this in the middle of the summer because it does get hot. But the road through Zion, although it is a slow pace and it can get busy if you don't time it right, the views are something out of a storybook. You just feel like you're not on Earth anymore. And then once you get into Bryce Canyon, some of the rock formations look like mud drip castles or something. They're just awesome. There's a lot of really cool places to stay in and around Zion as well, Springdale. And I do feel like as more time goes on, it gets a little bit more touristy and slightly more commercialized, although it's not quite there yet where it kind of takes away the magic. It still is a very cool spot and it doesn't feel over commercialized. Hopefully it can stay preserved and feel that way because it is getting more and more built out as the popularity of this area rises. So as I got to the top of this list, it became harder and harder for me to choose these destinations because now we're getting into some of the cream of the crop best rides that I've done. But for number 2, I'm gonna have to give it to the Sierra Nevada mountain range, and that's a really big range. So most specifically in and around Yosemite National Park. The pass that we did this year, the Tioga Pass, I've done it a couple times, but it is an amazing road over the top of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And then if you want to drop into Yosemite Valley, it is some of the most breathtaking, spectacular views in the country, in my opinion. Just all the iconic mountains in there, like Half Dome, El Capitan. You've got the amazing meadows with the streams going through it. I'm pretty sure every Disney fairy book was modeled after Yosemite National Park. You've got waterfalls coming down from the skies. This is one of those places that you just feel like God just hand built, just like the most beautiful place he you could. And really one of the main reasons why I ranked it so high as well is there are several passes that you can go over and just spend a lot of time out here on a motorcycle where the views are absolutely insane. The windy roads are exactly every motorcyclist's dream. And we did Ebbets Pass, you got Monitor Pass. There's passes that I haven't even been on up in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And then if you want to go up a little bit higher, you can hit up Tahoe. I did a video on Tahoe as well. Absolutely breathtaking area. But I kind of keep expanding this, so I don't want to get out of control. I'm going to be specific and just say Yosemite National Park. The Tioga Pass goes through Yosemite National Park, but some of these passes just north of Tioga are absolutely breathtaking as well. We did half of Sonora Pass, which I've heard really good things about as well. I wish we could have done the whole thing, but it was closed back in the summer of this year whenever we went. And then depending on where you're traveling from, like if you're traveling from Southern California like we were, coming up that 395 on the east side of the Sierra Nevadas is a great road too. It's a high speed road that's great for traveling distance, you know, high speed, you're doing 70, 80 miles an hour sometimes up that road. And you've got the amazing views of like Mount Whitney, which is the second tallest mountain in the United States. Of course, this is one you don't want to do in the winter because it does snow up there, but really you have a pretty big window to do this. I try to avoid the peak summer months when a lot of vacationers are there, but you know, late spring, early fall, it's kind of the times that I like to hit it. But if you've never been out this way, this ride, you're going to get some views that will absolutely take your breath away. When people that live on the West Coast brag about their mountains and how there's nothing on the East Coast that can rival it, they're talking about these mountains. Next up is what I feel like is the granddaddy motorcycle road of them all. And a lot of you that have been watching my channel for a while probably already know exactly where I'm going. You got it, Highway 1, aka the Pacific Coast Highway. Now Highway 1 stretches all the way up from Southern California and goes all the way up the West Coast to Washington State. But because I'm trying to keep these rides down to approximately 100 miles, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, I'm gonna say specifically the section between Cambria and Carmel by the Sea. This is the section that also goes right through Big Sur. This is one of the coolest roads that every time I'm on it, I'm just completely awestruck. This area has been so preserved. I think a lot of it is just because it's hard to build, because you're literally on a sheer cliff on the side of the Pacific Ocean. One side you've got a drop off on the Pacific Ocean, and the right side you've got these tall, just sheer granite cliff walls, and then you've got just a lot of trees scattered all in between. You've got some of the coolest bridges, Bixby Bridge and a few others just have really cool architecture that definitely complement the side of the mountain you're riding on. The roads are windy, you can do pretty good speeds on them, 40, 50, sometimes 65 miles an hour on these roads. There's very little through traffic through here because it's not accessible and you can't really just bail off the Highway 1 and go inland. Once you jump on this Highway 1 in certain points, you're kind of stuck on it for a ways, and so you don't have any like the commercial trucks, things like that. And this section of the Highway 1 isn't commercialized much at all. There's very few hotels, very few restaurants relative to how beautiful this area is, and I'm sure that's all by design. I'm sure there's all kinds of protected areas throughout this section. I've stayed at the Big Sur Lodge a couple times now, and this section of the Highway 1, there's just a lot of different turnoffs. And I've done it in a car and I've done it on a motorcycle, and it's a completely different experience on a motorcycle. I'm sure anybody will tell you that. Experiencing this road on a bike where you're just winding along this cliff with the Pacific Ocean down below you, this road is just the ultimate. Now it's still on my bucket list to take this road all the way from Southern California all the way up to Washington. There's a lot of just really cool places you can stop off at too. You got the Redwoods, the Oregon coast is amazing from what I hear. I've never done it on a bike though. But the section just south of Big Sur, going through Big Sur up into Carmel by the Sea, it's just a really, really cool section of road that I think every motorcyclist needs to experience at least once. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this list. I'd really be curious to hear your guys' opinion on all of these places. And like I said, there's a lot of places that I still want to go. Some of the places I really want to ride to are Beartooth Highway, that's in Wyoming, kind of northeast from Yellowstone. I've heard a lot of really good things about that road. The Canadian Rockies, like I mentioned, is one that I really want to go to, up into Banff area, Lake Louise, that whole area of the Canadian Rockies. Like I mentioned, I really want to do the Oregon coast up Highway 1, and I also want to check out Mount Rainier. But there's a lot of cool places. I still want to explore a lot of the East Coast. I want to go through upstate New York. I'd like to check out the Great Lakes area through Michigan. Really, the US has so many cool places to ride motorcycles. You could spend decades riding in the US and never get tired of all the perfect motorcycle roads we have out here. Let me know in the comment section below, guys, what rides did I miss? What rides do I need to add to my bucket list? What are your top 3 favorite rides? I want to hear from you guys. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Happy New Year. I look forward to planning and going on some rides in the new year. See you guys in the next one. Later.